And are you refreshed? Good. Now what?
Thank you for calling on me. My question has to do with relationships of physical beings and the spiritual collision that occurs. And more specifically, can two physical beings, and you referenced this earlier, by us all being in this room, we're naturally raising our vibration, or you're essentially overwhelming our vibrations with your magnitude of positive vibration. And so when two beings are in relation, whether it's marriage or whatnot, how can they most effectively propel the other to the high-flying disc?
The best way is to just be there and stay there. Through the clarity of your happy example, it's not easy, however, to not notice that someone isn't flying high. And when you notice that they're not, then you're not either. And then where the collision happens is that you then want to blame them for you not feeling good because you felt good before you noticed that they weren't on the high-flying disc. So that's when you misunderstand and perpetuate that flawed premise that they have anything to do with the way you feel. It's sort of like, do your thing and let others join you or not. And if they don't, then do your thing and let others join you or not. And do your thing and let them join you or not. And do your thing and let them join you or not. And after a while, you'll get them. But if you do your thing and you don't allow them to join you or not, and in the not joining you, you notice that they've not joined you, and then you do your thing and then they don't join you and you notice that they've not joined you, pretty soon you've joined them. And then you're mad at them, and then they're mad at you, and everybody's defensive. So just do your thing and let them do their thing. One who's connected to this source energy is more powerful than 1,000 who are not. But so many people get connected but don't stay there because they're so observant of what's going on around them. And so it really is about minding your own business. And even those you live with are not your business. Seems like they are, because they keep giving you grief, but they don't need to. You're giving the grief to yourself by noticing something. And so, helpful?
Makes sense, absolutely.
It makes perfect sense. So how do you do it? Well, you have to get a head start on it. In other words, the more momentum of alignment that you have going, then the easier it is for you to maintain it no matter what. And sometimes, the happier you are, the more annoyed somebody who isn't happy is. And they'll go after you. They'll try to get your attention, to explain to you why you shouldn't be so happy, as if there's something wrong with you. But if you've got enough momentum going, then when that happens, you're solid, you're still in love with them, you're maybe even playful, you're tuned into source energy. And here's the best part. You know how we were talking about how your inner being knows just how to call you without blowing you out of the water? Your inner being knows just exactly what your path of most resistance is and path of least resistance is, and your inner being knows how to offer what will be best for you. Well, when you're in alignment consistently, then you'll know too. You'll know for them. It's like the satellite dish is beamed in. You'll keep loving them even though they're wonky right now, and you won't let their wonkiness make you wonky. In time, they'll begin feeling that way about you. You'll be hearing things from them like, no matter how off I am, you always seem to stay in a good place. And in time, they will come to really appreciate the steadiness that you are. Makes sense.
Along those lines with the physical interaction of spirit and the physical manifestation, so this is an example. It was nerves initially when I got up here, but now my vibration is as such of I feel terrific. I feel wonderful. Is there, for me, chi, or the vibration of your energy, is there too high? Are you going to shake yourself right out of this being?
Well, that's what we were talking about. Your inner being knows how much you can handle and doesn't offer you more than you're ready for. When Esther first began receiving us, she felt like she had her toe in a light socket, because Jerry was summoning through his questions that he'd been carrying around his whole life. And so he was asking in a very strong way, and Esther was allowing it, but she wasn't in perfect vibrational alignment with us, and so it was a little rough in the beginning. But after a while, you acclimate to that higher frequency. And so, ask the question again.
Is there a physical way to know when you've achieved, you talk about the deliciousness of moments, if a moment is so delicious and you're vibrating at such a high level, is there a physical clue that you have?
We're so happy about this question. The clue or the indicator is a feeling of satisfaction. Now, when you think about the emotional scale and how you could feel satisfaction or you could feel exhilaration, you could feel passion, you could feel off-the-wall enthusiasm, you could feel strong love or appreciation, you could feel so much love that your weeping is overflowing from you. And so, yes, there are certainly degrees of emotions, but look at it this way. When you're in a state of alignment, then you are in the state of receiving. So your inner being is offering a vibration, and if you stay there, your inner being will sort of not bring you up and not compel you up, but create a pathway that makes it easy for you to go up. That's the best way of saying it. And so when you get in the vicinity, it's easier for you to find those better and better and better feeling emotions. And so satisfaction is the word that we would be looking for, because it's a relative thing, isn't it? Anger feels a lot better than hopelessness. And even though anger doesn't feel all that good, it's relative, and the same is true of the emotions that are feeling good. So what makes the difference in the way an emotion feels? You're really ready for this question. We haven't not talked much about this. So you can tune yourself to the frequency of your inner being, and that always feels satisfying. And then you can let yourself receive what your inner being knows about the subject that you're focused upon. And that feels way more than satisfying. That feels like ecstasy. And once you begin hanging around in those higher frequencies more often, so that you've got a give and take going with your inner being, where you're asking and your inner being is answering, there becomes a synergy or a momentum. It's like it all begins to pick up speed, and that's what feels the very best to you. That's really what you want. You really don't just want to ask a question and receive an answer, although that is satisfying. But it is so much more satisfying when you're asking and receiving an answer, and then a new question is born out of that new answer, and a new answer is born out of that question, and it's back and forth in this creative dance. That's what really feels the best. And that feels like passion or love of life or enthusiasm or I want more. And that really is the mantra of the universe. It's more expansion, more joyous expansion. So it sounds like we're talking about two different things. We really aren't, but it sounds like we're talking about frequency, which is tuning to your source, and then momentum added to that frequency, which is just increasing the frequency all that much more. But satisfaction is what you're reaching for.
And so is that the goal, is just to stay there, just to build the momentum there as high as you can and stay there as long as you can throughout the variety of contrast that's presented through creation?
The known goal and the inevitable goal that is known, the goal you knew, the goal you know, the inevitable goal that is known is expansion. That's what we are all about. There's no going back. But joyous expansion is what you're wired for. It's who you are. When you get on the joy end of expansion, there are a lot of people that are on the contrast end of expansion. The majority of people on the planet are in the contrasting, unhappy, asking for more mode. And they really are responsible for the expansion of all that is. But those who know that they're doing that and now are deliberately tuning to the expansion that's been asked for, you can have growth without expansion. You can have growth and expansion without really being joyful as it's happening. But to be joyful and engaged in your own expansion, it just does not get any better than that. That's what you came intending to experience. For example, it might feel good to you that somebody would just say, I like the way you look, and so I'm going to give you $1 million. And you would have to accept that your point of attraction had everything to do with that. In other words, it wouldn't just happen to you unless your point of attraction were in the vicinity. But even with that kind of attraction, it would be ever so much more satisfying if you were consciously aware of what you'd been asking for and you had been incrementally aligning yourself with it, so that you'd been witnessing the logical unfolding of this, so that this $1 million is just flowing again and again and again and again and again and again, because you've got your hands in the clay in a more deliberate way. That was the distinction that we were making, that a lot of times you can be in alignment just by stumbling into it. That's what step 3 is. You can be in the receiving mode and not even know what the receiving mode is. You could hear a song, or someone could be loving you, or you could be looking at something where the condition just evoked it from you. So there are lots of step 3 moments of being in the receiving mode that you just sort of blunder into. But when you reach the place where you're doing that on purpose, when you are deliberately tuning yourself to the frequency of your inner being, and you've shown yourself that within a relatively short time you can get there anytime you choose, that's when life becomes delicious in the way you intended when you came.
I agree.
Yeah.